Assalamu alaikum, Maulana.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah khairan, Shaykhuna. Jazakallah for coming on, inshallah. We'll just give a minute or two, inshallah, then we'll start.
Inshallah.
Nice to see you, mashallah. You're doing good.
Likewise, mashallah. Alhamdulillah.
Jazakallah for accepting our invite and coming on.
Wayakum. Maulana, what's the, you're going to stay on the whole time?
Yes, inshallah.
Okay, inshallah. So if there's any comments or things you wanted to make, then please stop me, and or if you want me to kind of go in a different direction, or if you want to ask a question to sort of stimulate something that might be more relevant to your community, like if I pick up on something.
Sure. So those that are on the Zoom chat here, I'll allow them to actually post a question if they want to, and if it's possible, I wouldn't try to disturb your actual speech while you're talking, but if there's something that we can kind of address towards the end possibly, then inshallah try to address it, inshallah. Jazakallah for. Okay, so we'll go ahead and start if that's fine with you, inshallah. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ونبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ولتكملوا العدة ولتكبروا الله على ما هداكم ولعلكم تشكرون صدق الله العظيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. So inshallah, to start our gathering, I'm going to start by reciting some Quran, and then after that I'll be introducing our speaker, inshallah, and then we'll let him take the floor, inshallah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون أياما معدودات فمن كان منكم مريضا أو على سفر فعدة من أيام أخر وعلى الذين يطيقونه فدية طعام مسكين فمن تطوع خيرا فهو خير له وأن تصوموا خير لكم إن كنتم تعلمون شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان فمن شهد منكم الشهر فليصم ومن كان مريضا أو على سفر فعدة من أيام أخر يريد الله بكم اليسر ولا يريد يريد بكم العسر ولتكملوا العدة ولتكبروا الله على ما هداكم ولعلكم تشكرون وإذا سألك عبادي عني فإني قريب أجيب دعوة الداع إذا دعاني فليستجيبوا لي وليؤمنوا بي لعلهم يرشدون صدق الله العظيم. So, inshallah, jazakallah khairan to our esteemed and honored and respected friend and teacher and speaker, Dr. Homan, for attending and joining us. Inshallah, I'm just going to go over his biography, inshallah, and then we'll let him take over, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. So, Dr. Homan Kashivarzi is the executive director and founder of the Khalil Center, which is a mental health and wellness center. And I'll just go over a little bit about Khalil Center in a minute. But Dr. Human is licensed as a psychotherapist in the state of Illinois. He holds a doctorate of clinical psychology, a master's of clinical psychology, and a bachelor's of science, specialist psychology, track minor in Islamic studies. He is currently a visiting scholar for Ibn Khaldun University, Istanbul, Turkey, adjunct professor at American Islamic College, Harvard Seminary, instructor of psychology at Islamic Online University, and founding director of Khalil Center, the first Islamically oriented professional community mental wellness center and largest provider of Muslim mental health care in the US. He is also a fellow at the Institute for Social Policy and Understanding at the Global Health Center, conducting research on topics related to Muslims and mental health. Dr. Human is an international public speaker and trainer, currently serving as a clinical supervisor of graduate students of clinical psychology at the village of Hoffman Estates. He also delivers seminars on specialized topics around multiculturalism and psychology. Dr. Human has also authored several published academic papers in recognized peer-reviewed journals on integrating Islamic spirituality into modern psychological practice. In addition to his academic training, Dr. Human has studied Islamic theology both formally and informally. He is a student of Sheikh Muhammad Zakaria from Toronto, Canada, where he attended his hadith and spiritual discourses for a number of years. After moving to Chicago, he studied informally with Sheikh Azimuddin Ahmed, later formally enrolling in Darus Salam Academy for 4 years. During this time, he also did some specialized coursework with Sheikh Amin Kulwadia in Islamic counseling. He then transferred to Darul Qasim, where he is continuing his higher Islamic education. So just to kind of point out, mashallah, Dr. Human, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless and reward him. He's, we can see from just his bio, mashallah, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed him and used him in different ways. And he started up this Khalil Center, which also has their branch here in Toronto. And they opened up last February. I'm also affiliated, alhamdulillah, with it and have a chance to do some khidmah for it. But what is Khalil Center and why would people choose Khalil Center? And this is on their website itself. You can see, you can go onto their website and find more information about the Khalil Center itself. And they chose the name Khalil, which in the Arabic language, and we have, mashallah, some of our Alamiya students here as well, and students of the Arabic language who are with us, and they would be a bit more familiar with the idea of the Arabic language. Means a very close and dear companion, right? And it's a sifatul mushabbah, right? Whereby in the Arabic language it is used to indicate that the aforementioned trait is consistently and constantly present in the one whom it is used for. And as was mentioned in Dr. Human's bio, that Dr. Human and the Khalil Center have put together Islamically integrated psychotherapy, which is a very unique kind of effort, and combining between and using what really Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us already to benefit our modern situations and the modern understanding of psychology. So I'll leave it up to Dr. Human now, inshallah, and he will take it from here. And then if there's some questions, inshallah, Dr. Human has asked at the beginning a little earlier that if there are some questions that you wish for him to answer, you can type them up, inshallah, and then I will try to present those questions to him, inshallah, and he will try to answer them. Jazakallah khairan, Dr. Human. No. Sorry, I think I muted you.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله وحده والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Jazakumullah khair to first off Maulana Shakir for this gracious invitation. MashaAllah, I've known Maulana Shakir for a long time, and he's one of the heroes of the Toronto community, MashaAllah. When we were young fellows trying to figure out our own identities and who we are and what we'd like to do in life, he was among the first generation of scholars after the immigrant generation, right? Those that were born and raised in Toronto and then went abroad to study, to come back and to really make the connection with those that would grow up in this part of the world. MashaAllah, he's been a great inspiration to many in our generation, and I think that sometimes people like Maulana Shakir may not necessarily realize the impact that they have on the youngsters that go on to try to make something of their lives that they would have learned from their teachers and try to carry something forward. So I'm happy to be here. It's the first time I'm with your community. Very interesting circumstances in which we meet, right? There's there's certainly some khair in the current circumstances. Certainly I've had the privilege and opportunity of connecting with various communities that I may not have otherwise had such privileges. But given that we can do this online and Zoom has kind of facilitated some pathways to be able to connect in different ways, alhamdulillah, I'm fortunate to be with you today. What I wanted to really speak to today, I know the flyer says, post-Ramadan blues, and then there's also some descriptor about depression, anxiety. My talk is going to be a little bit different, and I had, told Maulana Shakir about this as well, that I really want to focus on well-being. I mean, part of my focus is less, although we do a lot of clinical work, I think we want to shift things more towards a positive view of ourselves and things that we can take away. And not to mention the fact that I really want to just speak to issues that affect all of us as a community, right? I mean, the field of psychology, the field of Islamic psychology, which is where I'm really focused on that kind of intersection between Islam and psychology. That's really my life's passion and work. Is really designed not just for clinical populations, right, for people who are suffering from clinical anxiety and depression, but rather it's really the whole spectrum, right? And we have, such a rich heritage and legacy in our tradition of, mental health and well-being in our own very scholarly works, right? So if you look at, say, for example, Abu Zayd al-Balkhi, right, who was a 9th century Islamic polymath, right, Muslim scholar, and he writes a risala, a treatise, right, about 1,000 years ago, in which he discusses preventative healthcare, preventative mental health, and he talks a lot about behaviors, thought processes, and attitudes to be able to take on in order to prevent any sort of difficulties from arising. And so I really want to just sort of speak to what we may all be experiencing at this time, specifically given the complication of the COVID and the coronavirus, but also just coming out of Ramadan, right? And so I think the context is that during the month of Ramadan, I think we've generated a lot of momentum, and there's been a lot of opportunity for us to really turn back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to do ibadat, to worship him, to do siyam and qiyam and tilawah of the Quran, all of these wonderful things that we've been able to engage. But then the question is, where do we go from here? And I think that transition is a very important one. And Ramadan is a great blessing for us in that it provides us that yearly opportunity to really recharge, to turn back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to generate the momentum towards what we were really here for, what we're created for, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ, for the ma'rifah of Allah, for the knowing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to turn back to Him, to recognize Him. And so I want to speak to just some points that might allow us to really do something with that, inshallah. There is, some of the Muslim jurists kind of Muslim scholars kind of break up the human being into two components. They say we have the jasad, right? And we have the ruh, right? We have the body, and then we have the spirit. And the body was created from what? It was created from the earth, right? It was created from, and therefore what it needs for nourishment, right, is earthly things. It needs sleep, it needs food, right? It needs socialization, it needs these sorts of things. But the ruh needs something else. And the ruh, sometimes called by Muslim scholars the latifa rabbaniya, right? That this other part of ourselves, which by the way includes our psyche, right? I'm not talking about just a brain, I'm talking about our psyche, our meaning-making structures. How do we understand ourselves? How do we make sense of the world, right? This is a metaphysical. You can't measure and take out your identity, right? You can't take out, yes, we might be able to localize certain parts of your personality, places in the brain, but that doesn't speak to why you do something or why that personality exists in the first place, right? And so there's that metaphysical part of ourselves, which includes both the psychological and spiritual components. And I really want to speak to some of those things that I think might be helpful for us to enhance our lives going forward. Now that we have the momentum, I mean, they say behavioral psychologists talk about in order to make any significant shift, you have to have sufficient motivation. And Ramadan, alhamdulillah, mashallah, has given us that motivation. And that momentum, what we want to do is we want to carry it forward. So what do we want to do? Number one, I have about 9 points that I want to try to speak to. I'll see however many I can get through, inshallah. Number one is striving for simplicity. Okay, because I think one of the things that we're recognizing in modernity is that we have access to so much complexity, so much technological advances, which actually helps us, has facilitated things for us. For example, we can have this, Zoom meeting. You can still tune into your masjid. You can still listen to the tilawah, the Quran. You can listen to things live online. These are great things and tools that we have. We have dishwashers. We have cell phones. You can do your banking online. You can, we have laundry machines and all of that. All of these things to do what? To make our lives, right? They're supposed to make our lives a lot easier, but they provide a degree of complexity, right? They come with complexity. All of these technological advances in modernity introduces complexity into our lives. And we can find, I'm sure all of us can relate to this notion that, despite the fact that we have all these technological advances, common complaint is we don't have enough time for things, right? We're not able to, execute or keep up with all of our demands, right? At the same time as we can tune into the halaqah, we also have to be on conference calls, we have to be answering emails and all of these things. So we find that our lives have also become very complicated, right? Socialization has also become very interesting and complicated. Texting and WhatsApp and Facebook, right? There's all of these other avenues of socialization that has also introduced the degree of complexity into our lives. Some of this complexity, as I said, is useful. But then on the other hand, it's also not very useful in the sense that it produces a lot of scattered brain, right? Meaning that it's hard for us to kind of keep our minds focused on something. This technological kind of world has also kind of sucked us in. And, very interestingly enough, we find that individuals who engage in excessive social media, they tend to have greater degrees of depression, greater degrees of anxiety. It doesn't seem to increase well-being, despite the fact that we have all of these technological advances in the developed world. We are also, studies show, the saddest people in the world. We are also the most anxious people in the world, right? And I think that robs us of some of our very kind of human nature and need for simplicity, right? And so like I'll give you an example. The sort of scattered brain that's happening, there's increases in ADHD. Well, let me just make this very, I mean, ADHD, there's a clinical diagnosis of ADHD, but there's also just inattention. And I think I'm also a victim of that. And I'm sure many of you are, that we can't sort of sit still and focus. I mean, perhaps it's hard to focus on a half an hour, 45-minute talk too, right? That I'm giving you. Perhaps throughout the course of this talk, your mind is going to start to wander on different things. We can't really read a book, and actually it's impacting our children as well, right? There's sort of a epidemic levels of ADHD that's starting to happen. But I'm chalking this up to really inattention, right? Because what happens is that, when you read a book, what is it that's required of you? When you read a book, you have to create images in your mind, which creates a degree of creativity, right? Of being able to focus internally and keep your mind focused. Whereas we can't compete with the video games, with the TV screens, with all the lights and flashing lights and that technology gives us. And therefore, that overstimulation increases the degree of arousal. And so we always have a complaint of feeling understimulated, right? When you read a book, it's not exciting. It's not as exciting as watching a Marvel or Hollywood movie, because all of the flashing lights, all of the overstimulation, different brain areas that it's activating. But what does it do? The counter is that it actually starts to rust away and deteriorate our own internal faculties of being able to be creative, of being able to be, engage in imagination and imagery inside. And then what does that do for us when we go to Salah, for example, when we go into prayer, and that we can't keep our minds straight or focused on one thing, that our minds become so scattered, right? That we can't keep and engage a conversation with individuals without our minds leaping and running to different places. And so this creates really an inability, actually. And the analogy I'll give you is like the apple versus the cake, right? If you eat, let's use some culturally relevant, analogies. Let's say a baklava or gulab jamun, right? Whatever your cultural kind of delicacy of sweets that you have. These are highly, saturated sugars, right? And filled with butter. And the degree of stimulation they produce, and the amount of serotonin that's released in your brain, eating these cheesecakes. I mean, it's like self-medicating, right? I mean, you look at depression and anxiety. Some people that are depressed, they feel satisfied. They don't have any pleasure. They feel sad. So what do? They do comfort eating. They start to eat all of these high sugary foods. And what happens, it gives them kind of an injection like heroin of a feel-good experience. And you're trying to kind of balance out this thing that's happening inside. But what happens? It creates a new baseline, okay? That your body, we're adaptive creatures. If you flood the body with all of these things, that becomes its new normal. It becomes its baseline. So take, for example, the cake. And then now after you eat a gulab jamun, and you eat, an apple after that, how does that apple taste? It doesn't taste all that great. Maybe you need to make it a candy apple, or you dip it in sugar. Take the strawberries and make it a chocolate strawberry, right? Chocolate covered strawberries. And so when we, get accustomed, of course, in moderation, using these things, there's no problem with it. But the issue is that when we become accustomed and we make a lifestyle and we make this our new normal, the baseline, our new normal starts to adapt and adjust, and that's where we stay. And so overstimulation creates this diffusion of mind. And one of the challenges of the COVID scare, right? The COVID kind of coronavirus. Yes, in the beginning, there was a lot of anxiety about getting sick. And now that we've started to self-quarantine and shelter in place and all lockdowns and all of these things that we're doing, the studies are showing that we're also starting to have an increasing degrees of sadness and anxiety. And what is that? I mean, one of the things is that because we have a difficult time being bored. Okay, what I mean by that is that, again, that overstimulation, we cannot, I mean, you think about, many adolescents have this, you always have to have some music or something going on in the background. And I chalk that up to two problems. One is, it's possible because you want to avoid, right? You want to avoid the thoughts that are in your mind. So you want sort of distract yourself. And what does COVID provide us? It provides us a ripe environment for us to not be able to get away from some of our thoughts. I mean, I do a lot of clinical care, mental health care, right? I work with a lot of my patients, and they say that they've been struggling, particularly during the COVID, because they're alone with their thoughts. They really don't have the opportunity to distract themselves as much, right? That's one level. The other level, which is probably more familiar to most people, most of us, the average person, right, is that we have a difficult time being bored. That we can't, that we always need some sort of stimulation, and that baseline prevents us from being able to really enjoy the natural things like time with our family, time with our children, time with the Quran and tilawah of the Quran, and mashallah, many people during the month of Ramadan, what they do, and here's sort of the practical part of my talk that I want to not just, cite problems, but actually do some takeaways as to what can we do, is that during the month of Ramadan, what do? We try to unplug a lot more. Hopefully we did. I mean, some of us, if we failed, inshallah, the same Allah is the same Allah that we worshipped in Ramadan outside of it. So inshallah, you have the opportunity to kind of salvage what you missed out on. Don't be too hard on yourself. But what do we want to do is we sort of unplug for a little while during the month of Ramadan. And while we're unplugged, we get an itch. This thing is a poison, right? This is both a blessing and a poison at the same time, this phone. What happens when you take this phone away from somebody for a little while? They start to get itchy, right? I mean, it's almost like crack cocaine, right? Like if you start to go low on your battery, prior to COVID, people will go around looking for a charger. They say, "Hey, do you have a charger? Do you have a charger?" It's like you need an injection. You're going to a drug dealer. Hey, do you have an extra, syringe or something like that? It's like a crackhead, right? And what we end up, we have this this sort of itch that we have, and mashallah, we sort of resist the itch, inshallah. But what happens if we itch it? It's like the scab. Okay, you have to hold out for long enough. Behavioral psychologists say, if you want to get to a new normal, okay, from your baseline, and extinguish this addiction, what you need to do is to actually not itch the scab. What happens when a scab starts to form on your arm? You start to get really itchy. So if you itch it, what will happen? You keep breaking off the scab, and you may eventually get it infected, right? You may get worse each time. And you may develop scars over time because you've had this long-term damage to your skin. And so what we want to do is resist the itch so that we can have healing. But what happens when we come to the end of Ramadan? That itch starts to creep in. And I urge us, including myself, that after Ramadan is done, stop itch. Don't go back to itching. Okay? Create a new lifestyle. This is very natural. Impulse control, right, is like a muscle. We have this rebound effect. When we sort of get hard down upon it, we want to have kind of the rubber band effect, they say, right? Kind of the rebound, snap back into the into the other direction. And so I'll give you an example. There was a study, right, between two groups of individuals, and what did they do? One group, there's a psychological study. They took two groups of individuals. They gave one, and then they had a table, right? They had two tables. On one table, they had radishes. On the other table, they had freshly baked cookies. They took these two groups of people. They took one group and they said, you can eat the radishes, but you're not allowed to touch the cookies. The other group came in and they said, you can eat the cookies as much as you want. Okay. So one group, they were deprived. They had to hold themselves back from eating the cookies. They wanted to eat the cookies. They smelled it, but they weren't able to eat it. They ate the radishes. The other group, they ate the cookies. Now what they did was they took both groups and they gave them a problem-solving activity. Okay. But the problem, you couldn't actually solve it. It was an impossible task. The group that ate the cookies spent a total of 19 minutes trying to solve the problem. The group that ate the radishes spent 9 minutes, 10 minutes less than the group that ate the cookies. What are we saying here? What's the moral? What's the results? What's the outcome? What are they uncovering here? The group that had to hold themselves back, they held themselves back in one environment where they didn't eat the cookies, but then after that, they couldn't hold themselves back from quitting. They couldn't extend themselves any further, okay? They couldn't kind of bite down on their nafs, the desire to want to quit and enjoy yourself, to embrace the discomfort was waning. And so the analogy I'm making here is for Ramadan. We do have a itch to want to go exactly back to the way that we were living. Now, what I say is develop some degree of moderation. Yes, during the month of Ramadan, we do more ibadah than we do for the entire month, the entire year. That's a given, right? I mean, that's normal. That's something that's healthy. So there's no problem with that. And we're not expecting that you're going to do the exact, if you did, finish one Quran or got to half a Quran, or you read one juz a day, or you read 5 juz a day. We're not necessarily expecting that you're going to go back to, you're going to do that exactly like that throughout the course of the year. Illa mashallah, except for the few individuals whom Allah has really favored and blessed to do that. But most of us will just return to some degree of normalcy. Here's my suggestion. If your normal was here during the month of Ramadan, okay, and then you pushed yourself, right, to get to a better place up here, okay, don't fall right back. Find somewhere right in between, okay, go a little bit lower. And some of the, my suggestion to us would be the suggestion of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? He would say, there's 2 ahadith. He says, خُذُوا مِنَ الْأَعْمَالِ مَا تُطِيقُونَ. Do those actions, or take from those actions, take on those actions in which you have the capacity to do so. So be realistic with yourself. Say, hey, if I did 1 juz of Quran every day during the month of Ramadan, I can at least do 3 to 4 pages, okay? And this is what I'm going to make my new norm. And the Prophet ﷺ says, أَحَبُّ الْأَعْمَالِ إِلَى اللَّهِ أَدْوَمُهَا وَإِنْ قَلَّ, that the most beloved of actions are those that are done consistently, even if they're done in small quantities. So what we take away here from Ramadan is that you may have had large quantities of ibadah, but when you leave Ramadan, take some things away from it. Allow that to be some form of change, okay? And so don't go back to this need for overstimulation. Now I'm going to kind of turn more towards more of a psychological process. I talked about the behavioral, right? Like what you should do, take a little bit and continue and carry on forward. Allow yourself to be bored a lot more. Don't fill your time all the time, right? Allow yourself to contemplate. Allow yourself to sit and appreciate quiet, okay? Stay in the moments a lot more, right? Anxiety and depression have two psychological processes. Imam al-Ghazali, Imam al-Razi, Fakhruddin al-Razi also talk about these 2 things. They say sadness, which by the way precedes any modern psychological science on this, which also corroborates what they said, right? Today's science corroborates it. Sadness does what? It gets you to think about the past. All of your regrets get lost in what, things in the past. Certainly thinking about memories are useful in so much as it enlivens you, in so much as it does something positive for you. But getting stuck in the past for the sake of being in the past is not beneficial, right? The Prophet ﷺ said that this this idea, this whisper of shaitan, لو فعلت كذا وكذا, right? That had I done this, these regrets in the past. He says, don't say that. Say, ما شاء قدر الله ما شاء فعل, right? That Allah willed what has happened in the past. And Imam al-Mawsili, he says, right, was a Sahib al-Ikhtiyar, a famous Hanafi jurist. He has this nice saying in one of his passages. He says, this is like diya'at al-mawjud li talab al-mafqud. That this is wasting the present in seeking something that's already gone, right? Something that's already finished. So I think we have a difficult time sometimes remaining in the present. That's also part of the scattered mind, right? We also have to clutter our minds with stuff. Having a conversation with somebody, having, Imam Razi, for example, he says another word for the present moment is dhawq. Dhawq. What is the literal meaning of dhawq in Arabic? It's to taste the ladha, the taste of something, right? To appreciate the blessings that we have. And that's the other thing that I want to emphasize, is that our appreciation for what we have in the present. Sometimes what happens, the other side of the coin, is anxiety. Anxiety, stress, fear gets us to think about the future. Now, Imam al-Ghazali says that's useful in so much as it allows us to prepare in the present. What is anxiety about? Anxiety is about control. We want to have more control so that we can avert some catastrophe in the future, some bad thing in the future. Like, for example, we don't want to get sick from the COVID. What do? We wear masks, we stay home, we're a bit, we wash our hands, we're careful with our groceries, hand sanitizers, etc. Okay? Now, unhealthy anxiety would be getting on a computer and checking coronavirus every single day, the numbers, and what's going to happen. What are we going to do, right? These are not healthy for us. This is excessive anxiety. Why? Because we don't control it. So what do? We use our asbab, the things that we control, we control. The things that we do not, what do? We put it in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? This is what tawakkul is. Right? Tawakkul isn't just the concept, but it's actually putting it into practice in our daily lives. One of my teachers, Sheikh Amin, would say, what is Sufism? What is Tasawwuf? It's taking your aqidah, your belief of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and putting it into your daily life. It's putting it into action. So we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provides. There's a recession, economic hardships, right? Certainly that's a fear that we have, a worry. It's a very realistic one, right? But we also know وَمَا مِن دَابَّةٍ فِي الْأَرْضِ إِلَّا عَلَى اللَّهِ رِزْقُهَا, that Allah has taken upon himself to ensure the sustenance of the believer. Now the question is, can we let go, have that leap of faith, kind of put ourselves in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And this is what many psychologists are starting to study, and they call this transcendental spiritual experiences, TSEs. You can look it up. And they talk about the incredible power, transformative power of transcendental spiritual experiences. We have this in our tradition, right? So we want to have that ability to be able to really appreciate and do shukr of that which we have in our present, and to have a kind of not scattered brain, is to try to have a focused mind. Tafakkur and muraqabah. Tafakkur and muraqabah are these concepts within the Islamic tradition that gets us to really focus on something. Again, in the present, if we're focusing on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? We're focusing on the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We may sit there and meditate. There's all of this research and work being done on mindfulness. What's the essence of mindfulness? Which is already present within the Islamic tradition in muraqabah, or even more so, is this mindfulness is what? being able to kind of shut off your mind from all these other things and to keep it focused on one thing. And so we have this in the Quran, tafakkur, right? والذين يذكرون الله قياما وقعودا وعلى جنوبهم ويتفكرون في خلق السماوات والأرض ربنا ما خلقت هذا باطلا. That those individuals in their sitting, walking, laying states, they always can reflect upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and reflect upon, now we have an opportunity upon the خلق السماوات والأرض, like nature. Get out and enjoy. You know, one of the things that we miss as an industrialized, developed nations is the interaction with the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This corona, عسى أن تكرهوا شيئا وهو خير لكم, is perhaps a blessing for us. And it allows us an opportunity to sit alone with ourselves and our families and our thoughts, to be bored and embrace boredom and to gather our thoughts, right? To have more muraqabah and one-mindedness, and also to then appreciate nature. The weather is getting good. There's no problem with going out, inshallah. Of course, keep 6 feet away from individuals, but go out, embrace nature. You know, one of the downfalls of a developed nation is that we're on salaries. Salaries create what? A dependency on the employer. But when individuals are in business, those people who are self-employed, they realize this. When the farmer has to go to his field and the crops may come out or they may not, or they may harvest that season or they may not, or there may be a famine or shortage or rain, right? They make salatul istisqa, they make a dua, they make prayers for what? For rain to come. They're always interacting with nature. They're always able to see the miracles of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? These are things that us and our children and our young generation, the millennial generation, doesn't know, doesn't get to experience. And for us to be able to really get out and to have this opportunity, I think is a great opportunity for us. The other thing that I want us to take away into the month of Ramadan, after the month of Ramadan, is what did we do during the month of Ramadan? You know, when somebody starts a fight with you, what do you say? Say, Inni sa'im, I'm fasting. You don't want to fight. What do? Speak good. You don't want to complain, right? If you are, at iftar, you want to, of course, this is going, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu la tubtilu sadaqatikum bil manni wal adha. Don't destroy your sadaqah and your good deeds with what? Complaints, insults, by saying, I did this for you or I did that for you. So in our relationships, actually, what we say has a huge impact on the way that we actually feel. Psychologists talk about this notion of speaking good into existence. What do we mean? So training, there's a whole science in positive psychology and learned optimism. Many of us, unfortunately, throughout the course of the year, we have what we call a negative attribution bias. That's what psychologists call it. It's a shift to the negative. Everything the cup is always half empty. And for us to be able to appreciate the good is very important. Don't speak complaints into reality. Don't think evil of people. Don't think evil thoughts. Think about the positive. Try to train your minds, train ourselves to work towards a positive. Don't work with a deficit lens. Work with a positive lens. What do I mean by the deficit lens? Like the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ says, don't look in the dunya at people that have more than you. Look at people that have less than you. This is what called psychological reframing or shifting your attention, right? We start to focus on individuals who have less than us. So don't complain. When we complain, we speak things into existence. Try to withhold this tongue. من كان يؤمن بالله واليوم الآخر فليقل خيرا أو ليصمت. That whomsoever fears Allah and the last day, they shall speak good or stay silent. This is absolutely golden, because when you complain, you speak things into existence. By the way, healthy couples, marital research shows that healthy couples are not those individuals that don't have problems. But healthy couples are those individuals who have problems. However, they're able to overwhelm and have a greater proportion and degree of positive thoughts and statements towards their spouses than those who don't have, than those who are unhappy. What does that mean? That they're able to think positive. What is shaitan? It's an Eid. At the end of Ramadan is an Eid for us. It's also an Eid for shaitan. He is an ex-con, right? He comes out of jail and he's angry at the world, right? For putting him in jail. And he's angry for being in jail. And now he's ready to unleash his shar. And what does shaitan do? الشيطان يعيدكم الفقر ويأمركم بالفحشاء. Right? Allah does, what does he do? He gets you to engage in evil. He gets you to think that you're going to be poor. So what do we do when we think we're going to be poor? We are selfish. We start to withhold. What do positive psychologists say about the most happiest people? Positive psychology shows that the happiest people are the individuals who are the most selfless. There's two types of happiness, by the way, that research is showing. There's the pleasure seeking, and there's satisfaction. Okay? Pleasure, right? It does not bring you joy. And in fact, it can create a lack of resilience. And science shows that the people who are more materialistic tend to have greater anxiety and depression. But people who lead a meaningful life, who strive to live for some meaning that's above themselves. And ironically enough, in a secular psychology, they say that if you are selfless and you do for others, for what? For goodness sake, right? For your own sake, you'll actually feel better. I mean, we say, obviously, that's shallow, that's secular, right? We say, don't do for goodness sake, do for God's sake, do for Allah's sake. Right? لا يضيع إن الله لا يضيع أجر المحسنين. Right? That Allah does not waste your good deeds. ولا تستوي الحسنة ولا السيئة ادفع بالتي هي أحسن فإذا الذي بينك وبينه عداوة كأنه ولي حميم. We see this in the Quran, that evil and good are not the same. So return evil with good. Return, right? أحسنوا إلى من أساء إليك. Right? The Prophet ﷺ said, do good to the one that does bad to you. Your spouse is upset with you. You return it with a kind word. Return it with kindness. Or don't say anything at all. من كان يؤمن بالله واليوم الآخر فليقل خيرا أو ليصمت. You have food iftar, your very last iftar. If you don't like something on the table, either don't say anything or say, mashallah, this is amazing. Thank you very much. Jazakallah khair. Right? And appreciation and gratitude is actually one of the things that brings a lot of satisfaction in life, psychologically. And they say, right? And so this is, and the Quran says, right, فَأَمَّا بِنِعْمَةِ رَبِّكَ فَحَدِّثْ. Right? إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ أَن يَرَى أَثْرَ نِعْمَتِهِ عَلَى عَبْدِهِ. Right? أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. That Allah loves to see that people speak of His bounties. They don't attribute it to themselves. They say, MashaAllah, Alhamdulillah, Allah gave me this. This gratitude, this constancy in speaking khair, in thinking khair, is in being able to not dissociate and go into all of these pleasure-seeking activities, is going to make you more what? It will make you satisfied with life. A lot of research is on life satisfaction. And they show that people that have a lot more, they're not necessarily satisfied with life. To the contrary, people that make more money beyond what is necessary, beyond comforts, they end up actually having greater degrees of anxiety and depression. And so what do we want to do? We want to be able to suffice with a lot less. I'm not saying don't have any pleasure at all, because after Ramadan, again, we're not going to go to the other extreme. What I'm saying is be realistic with yourself. Here, a very tangible advice that I can give you. Take your phone when you come home or a set time, turn it off or put it away. Then set a time for yourself. 1 hour in the day, you're going to binge on your phone. Go crazy. Answer your emails, your messages, whatever. But do not allow it to have ghalaba over you. Do not allow it to be your master, right? What is the Prophet ﷺ said? Al-ajizu man atba'a nafsahu hawahu wa tamanna ala Allah. What does he do? That, and Imam al-Ghazali says this person is an ahmaq person. That this is a foolish person. That the person who is actually an ajiz, incapacitated, is the person who makes himself follow their base carnal desires, pleasure seeking. And then what do? They say, oh, inshallah, Allah will have mercy upon me. Allah will forgive me. Good things will happen to me. But how will good things happen to you if you don't work on that? Right? And so, and the ajiz, actually the word interesting, right, is ajiz, that you are actually incapacitated because your nafs rides you, like the horse analogy. The horse rides you. You don't ride the horse. I know for those, I was telling my children about the Mullah Nasruddin jokes, Mullah Nasruddin, he had a donkey and he would ride with, and he was riding his donkey with his son standing next to him. So, then he passes by a village and people say, oh, look at this guy. His son is walking and the Mullah and Mullah Nasruddin, he's such a inconsiderate father. He's making the young son walk while he's on the donkey. Then what he does is he flips it. Okay, fine. Then he switches, puts the son on. Then he goes into a village. They criticize him. They say, oh, why is the son riding? The father is walking. And then they both get on. And then they say, oh, why is both people, they're sitting on this donkey. They're going to break the donkey's back. Don't they have any consideration for the donkey? So eventually what he does a foolish thing. He takes the donkey and he puts the donkey on his back. The donkey starts to ride him. Right? And so this is the foolish thing, is that we want to ride our beast. We want to be in control. And so we want to take these mechanisms of being able to do such things that will allow us to be able to conquer our nafs and to strive towards meaningful existence. We are searching for satisfaction. And so these are my few advices. My last one that I want to mention, because I think is a good one, is that we have to anticipate lethargy. Okay, people think that to be motivated means that we'll always be motivated. So don't follow your feeling states. What I mean by that is that sometimes you feel lazy. You get up in the morning, you're feeling lazy. Okay, but if you give way to that laziness, you go to bed, you stay in bed, you don't get up, and you give power to that laziness, it will grow, right? And what do they say? Psychologists say you have to interrupt it. So get up. As soon as you start to feel lazy, you're generating a momentum of laziness. The irony is that energy creates more energy. Energy begets more energy. Once you get up, and one psychological mechanism to do this is to give yourself a very small goal. You say, okay, look, I'm supposed to read one juz today. You know what? I'm just going to read one page. I'm feeling really tired today. At least one page. I'm not going to let go of this amal. Once you start, you realize that maybe you're going to do half the juz. Or you want to get cleaning up in the house and you feel lazy. You say, okay, you know what? I'm just going to clean for 5 minutes, just do a quick tidy. Once you get started, you might actually get rolling. Don't give yourself that gap of time for shaitan to take over, for your laziness to take over, for your evil thoughts to take over. We want to interrupt it. And so I conclude with the fact that, with the idea that this is not an easy process, right? Meaning that it's easier said than done. Yes, oh, Dr. Human, you can come up here and say all of these things. Maulana Shakir, you can preach on the mimbar, but it's easier said than done. You guys maybe can do it easily. By the way, I can't do it easily. Maybe Maulana Shakir can, but it is definitely a struggle. And I don't want to minimize the fact that it is absolutely a struggle, but what you need to do is to shift. So I'll give the analogy typically to my patients that, if you don't balance your car wheels, what happens? You start to tip towards one direction. So if you're tipping towards negativity all the time, what do you have to do to strive towards equilibrium? Push yourself to the other direction. push yourself. Eventually what will happen? You'll straighten out and you'll be where you want to be. And obviously you always want to keep a watchful eye on yourself so that you don't go towards any of these extremes. And those are my advices for today. I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the tawfiq to act upon that which I said, which is khair and good and meaningful, and for Allah to forgive me for that which I have said, which is from that is evil and shar and not in accordance with what with the rida of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.
Jazakallah khairan, Dr. Human, inshallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you. I think those were very pertinent and very important and very practical advices that you gave. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you and reward you and grant you the best of both worlds, grant you and your family, and accept all of the rewards that you and all of us did, inshallah, and bless us. So just to end off, because we are not too far away from our iftar time here, and we normally have a tafsir session, and normally at the end of the tafsir session we end off with a short dua. So I'll end off the session with a short dua, inshallah, because it's also between Asr and Maghrib, the last day of Ramadan for us here, inshallah, and so this opportunity, inshallah, to try and supplicate to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as we normally did throughout the month of Ramadan. So we'll conclude with that, inshallah ta'ala. And as always, I request, first I always reminded the brothers and sisters that about small importance of the moment. So just to remind us that the night of Eid is also an important night. And Sheikh Dr. Human was talking about this importance of trying to keep up with things and take from what we were doing and try to have some consistency with a small amount of what we were already doing. And the Prophet ﷺ has told us about fasting 6 fasts after Ramadan in the month of Shawwal, and that's something we can make as a goal already. And so that's a hadith that I would like to share with us, that the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever fasts Ramadan and then follows it up with 6 fasts from Shawwal, then it's as if they fasted for the whole year. Also, the Prophet ﷺ spoke highly about the night of Eid, right? It's known as Laylatul Ja'iza, the night of reward giving, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addresses his angels and tells the angels that my angels, what's the reward for what should be the compensation for that employee who has fulfilled their employment? And they say, well, he should be given his wages in full. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addresses the angels and tells them that by my honor and my majesty, I have forgiven these servants. And so when the Sahaba heard this, they asked the Prophet ﷺ, is this Laylatul Qadr? And the Sahaba said, no, this is not Laylatul Qadr. The Prophet ﷺ said, this is not Laylatul Qadr necessarily. This is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rewarding his servants. So this night of Eid is also a very important night. Allah's attention is towards us. So we try to take advantage of that night, and also the month of Shawwal. Just a few points to try and reflect over. To end off, we will end off with a short dua, and for that I request everybody to recite salawat on the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam once. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama sallaita ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. Allahumma barik ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama barakta ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. اللهم لك الحمد كما أنت أهله فصل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد ما أنت أهله وافعل بنا ما أنت أهله فإنك أهل التقوى وأهل المغفرة. اللهم اغفر لحينا وميتنا وشاهدنا وغائبنا وصغيرنا وكبيرنا وذكرنا وأنثانا. اللهم من أحييته منا فأحيه على الإسلام ومن توفيته منا فتوفه على الإيمان. اللهم لك الحمد أن يسرت لنا إتمام القرآن والتوفيق للصيام والقيام. اللهم لك الحمد على نعمك العظيمة وآلائك الجسيمة حيث أرسلت إلينا أفضل رسلك وأنزلت علينا خير كتبك وشرعت لنا أفضل شرائع دينك. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم تقبل صيامنا وقيامنا واعتكافنا وسائر أعمالنا. اللهم اجعلنا ممن وفق لقيام ليلة القدر. اللهم اجعلنا ممن وفق لقيام ليلة القدر. Allah forgive our sins. Allah forgive our sins. Allah have mercy upon the entire ummah. Allah accept all of the good deeds that we were able to do throughout this month. Allah accept all that which we were able to do and bless us and have mercy upon us and have mercy upon the entire ummah. Allah remove this pandemic from the ummah. Allah help us to, Allah bless us with correct behavior and correct attitude, Allah, and bless us with taqwa, Allah, the correct consciousness of you, Allah, and all of that which we learned today, Allah, help us to put it into practice, Allah, help us to revise it and put it into practice, Allah. Bless Dr. Human, bless his family, Allah, bless Khalil Center, Allah, bless all of those that are working for the deen, Allah, wherever the khidmah of deen is taking taking place, O Allah, in whatever way, shape, or form, and all of those that are doing khidmat of the deen, and wherever it's being taken place, O Allah, Allah, accept everybody that's doing the khidmat of deen and grant them sincerity and ikhlas, Allah, and make us include us amongst your pious servants and your muqarrabeen, O Allah. Allah, make us amongst your muqarrabeen, O Allah. Allah, Allah, whatever we were able to do out of in this Ramadan, the good that we were able to do, Allah, help us to carry it over to some degree after Ramadan, O Allah. Allah, protect us from shaitan, from the evil of ourselves, O Allah. Allah, protect us from being ajiz, O Allah. Protect us from being amongst the ahmaqeen, O Allah. Allah, protect us from being amongst the ajizeen, O Allah. Allah, and make us amongst the qayyisin, O Allah. Allah, make us amongst the intelligent, O Allah. Those that take control of themselves, O Allah, that subdue their nafs, O Allah, and that behave in accordance with what's going to happen to them after death, O Allah. Allah, bless us and reward us, O Allah. And Allah, bless us with the reward of Laylatul Qadr, O Allah. Allah, make us amongst those that were granted Laylatul Qadr, that were granted your forgiveness, O Allah. Don't make us amongst those that Ramadan passed by them and they were not forgiven, O Allah. But rather, Allah, make us amongst your forgiven servants, O Allah. Allah, make us amongst your blessed servants, O Allah. Allah, all the khair which the Prophet ﷺ requested from you, Allah. All the good which the Prophet ﷺ requested from you, Allah. Allah, grant us, our family members, Allah, all of those associated with us, and the entire ummah, Allah, grant us all of that khair. All the shar which the Prophet ﷺ asked to be saved and protected from. Allah, save us and protect us from that shar, Allah. Allah, remove this pandemic, Allah. All of those that are making efforts to Allah, for the ummah, Allah, in whatever way, shape, or form, Allah, especially our frontline workers, volunteers, Allah. Allah, our masajid, Allah, our makatib, Allah. Allah, our ulama, our sulaha, Allah. Allah, bless them, reward them, Allah, protect them, Allah. Allah, protect the Harimain Sharifain, Allah. Open it up again, Allah. Open up our masajid again, Allah. Allah, reunite us in your masajid, Allah. Allah, help us to value your deen, Allah. Allah, help us to continue with reciting the Quran, O Allah. Allah, Allah, reward all of the mutatawwi'een, the volunteers that are making efforts in our communities, O Allah. Allah, the frontline workers, O Allah, our doctors, nurses, O Allah. Allah, and all of those individuals, O Allah, that are making an effort behind the scenes, O Allah. Allah, that we don't know about, O Allah, that we benefit from, O Allah. Allah, bless each and every one of them, O Allah. Allah, bless them and reward them, O Allah. And if they're not Muslim, Allah, guide them to the deen, O Allah. Allah, spread the winds of hidayah in your lands, O Allah. Allah, bless this country, O Allah. Bless our masjid, O Allah. Allah, there are many brothers and sisters, O Allah, who volunteer, who take care of, who assist in our masajid, O Allah, who do a lot of work behind the scenes, O Allah. Allah, bless each and every one of them, O Allah. Allah, those that clean, those that manage, O Allah, those that do the khidmat, O Allah, of the masjids, makatib, O Allah, the madaris, O Allah, Allah, the teachers of these makatib, madaris, O Allah, 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 and wherever good effort is being taken place, O Allah, Allah, bless and reward it, O Allah. Wherever suffering is taking place, O Allah, Allah, remove that suffering from the humanity, O Allah. Allah, remove suffering from the humanity, O Allah, from humanity, O Allah. Allah, and grant, Allah, bless these lands, Allah, bless our lands, bless our homes, Allah. Allah, bless our homes with nur, Allah, bless our lands with peace and tranquility, Allah. Allah, remove oppression from the world, Allah. Allah, remove oppression wherever it's taking place, Allah. Allah, Allah, and Allah, have mercy upon the entire ummah, Allah. Allah, wherever brothers and sisters are in need, Allah. Allah, Allah, fulfill their needs, Allah. Those that are in debt, Allah. Allah, fulfill their debts, Allah. Help them ease them, help them out of their debts, Allah. Help them with their financial burdens, Allah. Students that have OSAP loans, Allah. Allah, help them to pay off their loans, Allah. There's students that are studying, Allah, grant them success in their studies, Allah. Allah, students, Allah, Allah, those that are addicted, Allah, that have addictions, Allah, those that have mental health issues, Allah, those that have difficulties, Allah, with their personalities, Allah, those that have that need assistance, Allah, Allah, grant them cure and grant them assistance, Allah. Those that are sick because of COVID-19, Allah, Allah, grant them cure from it, Allah. Those that have passed away because of it, Allah, accept them as martyrs, Allah. Allah, those of our ulama that have passed away, Allah, very recently, Allah, Allah, reward them, fill their graves with nur, Allah, bless all of our pious predecessors and reward all of them, Allah, Allah, with the best rewards that can be given, Allah. Allah, those that are those that have challenges within their home, Allah, Allah, remove those challenges, Allah. Grant each and every home, Allah, Allah, happiness and tranquility. Those that have children, Allah, make their children pious and a coolness for their eyes, Allah, Allah, and make them a dakhira and a treasure for them for the hereafter, Allah, 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 make us amongst those, Allah, that are granted death upon iman, granted death when you are happy with us, Allah, that the grave becomes a garden of paradise for them, Allah. That when we wake up on the day of Qiyamah, Allah, that we're raised as believers, Allah. That we're given a shade under your throne on the day of judgment, Allah. Allah, that we're given our book of deeds in our right hands, Allah. That the intercession of the Prophet ﷺ is accepted for us, Allah. That we are given a cup from the Prophet ﷺ's hands, Allah. That the Prophet ﷺ, when he sees us, smiles at us, Allah. That we cross over the bridge of Sirat at the speed of light, Allah. That we are entered into Jannat al-Firdaus in the company of the Prophet ﷺ. Allah, grant us all of this and more, Allah. Allah, Allah, and make us amongst your muhsineen, Allah. Allah, and your muttaqeen, your faizeen, your muflihin, your mu'mineen, Allah, 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 and make us amongst those that are your muqarrabeen, Allah. and your Ahlul Quran, whom Ahlullahi wa khasatuhu, Allah, make us amongst them as well, Allah. Allah, and grant us all of that which the Prophet ﷺ requested from you, and protect us from all of that which the Prophet ﷺ has to be saved and protected from. Those of us that have parents, Allah, help us to serve them, Allah, and make them a means of our entry into our Jannah, Allah, and make them happy with us for your sake, Allah. Those whose parents may have passed away, Allah, or relatives have passed away, Allah, fill their graves with nur, Allah, and reunite all of us in Jannatul Firdaus, Allah. Accept these du'as, Allah. Whatever we ask for, Allah, grant us it through your mercy. Whatever we should have asked for and didn't ask for, Allah, grant us it through your mercy. Allah, whatever we desire in our hearts, if it's good for us, Allah, grant us it through your mercy. And if we desire something which is not beneficial for us, Allah, replace it with that which is beneficial for us, Allah. Accept these du'as. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. اللهم اغفر لنا ولوالدينا ولأساتذتنا ولمشايخنا ولإخواننا ولأخواتنا ولأزواجنا ولذرياتنا ولطلبتنا ولجيراننا ولأهل بلدنا ولمن له حق علينا ولمن أحسن إلينا ولمن أوصانا واستوصانا بالدعاء ولأصدقائنا ولأقربائنا ولمن له حق علينا ولمن أوصانا واستوصانا بالدعاء ولجميع المؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah khair once again to Dr. Human. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you and reward you.